for the up and coming, and or first time CPG operator, can you just help them kind of understand why they should focus on velocity versus expanding distribution points as fast as possible?
Yeah. I think it's a concept that people understand in stages. So I think the initial understanding is kind of like intuitive, like, oh, yeah, like it makes sense. I need to make sure that consumers really like it beyond just my circle of friends. So then that's the first level of understanding that, oh, yeah, of course, like in order for it to move off the shelf, if a consumer buys it, if they don't like it, they're not going to come back and buy it again. So that's like kind of, I would say, like the baseline, like first step of understanding that brands have. But the next level of understanding comes with um, how much cash do you have to actually now take that next step to go to a larger set of retailers, right? To expand beyond your backyard. And it's not just the upfront cash of I can make it and then I can sell it. It's the cash conversion cycle of when you're going to get paid back. And so I'll say there's a sub bullet in there, which is getting over that first 6 months with the distributor. So more than likely, you're going to go through a KHE or a UNFI in order to get to the end retailer. And, they don't pay you until the second order. And so oftentimes it's not just 60 days or 90 days, it can be months, many months before you see that first check. And then in addition to that, you have gone in, it depends on the program that you choose to go in under, but there can be instances where you are substantially promoting in order to get the retailers to pick it up. And so therefore there are a lot of deductions off of your invoice. And so then what you get back might be zero. So there's just a real practical understanding of, do I have the cash to continue to supply my existing customers while I expand and don't get paid for a very long time? So I
Yeah,
would
that
say
makes
that's like
sense.
the second level of understanding. But I would say that, that can be modeled. And a lot of times brands do a superficial level of modeling that. So I think it's important to do like a week by week cash flow model, even though it's all kind of made up, right? Like you're creating a scenario that may not actually play out exactly XYZ the way you've like, because you don't know when exactly they're going to order, right? They say they've taken you in and then you're sitting around waiting for the PO. But the point of the exercise is to say, once these POs start to get filled and you ship, right? What are all the things that are going to happen throughout the touch points of from the distributor to the retailer, from the back stock to the actual shelf? And then when the shelf tag is going to get put on, and initially there's usually an initial promo. So when is that TPR tag going to get put on? And all of this is like a really crazy game of, it's like project management. And so all of these things have to work out in a timing in a certain way. It's almost like a critical timeline. And before then you even trigger that, okay, they're going to reorder and then get paid. So that second level of understanding is really about the cash. But then the third thing that people sometimes need to come to understand, that I wish they'd know ahead of time, is just because your product tastes amazing, just because it completely is in a white space, just because you've done an excellent job of choosing a category that's ripe for disruption and your packaging is like plus, all of these things, right? The moving off the shelf is still totally about tactics and execution. So everything I said earlier about, okay, you've done the math to know like I need however much in dollars so that I can get through this period of growth. Okay, you're still making the assumption that all of the things are going to happen in terms of you're going to get placement on the shelf where they said you would. The TPR is going to get on the way that you planned it to be. Your merchandising teams are actually going to go out the week that they said they were going to go out. And all of these things are not automatic. Just because people say that they're going to do it and they should. And I'm not saying there's bad people out there, and I'm not saying this is a crappy industry to be in. What I am saying is it takes a huge amount of resources to ensure the execution. And until the execution is perfect and you've really greased those wheels and dialed that in, your expansion plan may not, like one thing goes wrong and then it all kind of falls apart. And then your whole plan of growth falls apart. So, where I want people to learn is incrementally starting with making sure your velocities are there. Because once you add extra layers of complexity, those executional priorities, you have to know how to handle them and you have to have the experience of having done it and managed through it before you move on to like the next geography and the next region and the next retailer.